We have thought about pronouns in the previous chapter, chapter 11, first and second person personal pronouns. And I want to review those before getting on to autos, the third person personal pronoun in Greek. So back to first and second person personal pronouns. Remember, first person is I or we, second person you, y'all, and third person is he, she, it, or them. Think of first, second, third person as sort of radiating out from you. I, you, he, she, or it. We, sort of radiating out from us, you all, them. You can notice here that the patterns in the first and second personal pronouns, again, very regular. And ego, mu, moi, me. Now to the second person. Su, su, soy, se. Hemes, hemon, hemin, hemos in the first person plural. Look at second person plural. Humes, humon, humin, humos. One of the things about Greek is with being an inflected language, there are very similar patterns, and in fact exact in many cases across the paradigms. So nominative plural, the epsilon iota sigma ending for both first and second, and you'll notice this across the declensions when we have these patterns, and it's helpful. These inflected languages with the endings that determine case become, at first they're a bit intimidating, but over time they provide such regularity and ease of translation and understanding. Let's review third person personal pronouns then. He, she, it. Possessive his, hers, its. The objective him, her, it. And then the subjective they, their, or of them, and objective them. Autos, we'll notice, is a second declension noun, follows the 2-1-2 pattern then. We have here the noun case ending and then the case ending with the final stem vowel, and you'll recall this, and here's what it looks like with autos. I've included the definite article again for you, and by now you should be noticing these patterns. Os, u, o, on, again with the connecting vowel in the masculine singular, feminine singular, a, ace, a, ain, neuter singular, a, u, o, a. We begin to see the noun rules here, or how these noun patterns surface regularly. The genitive and dative, singular and plural, are identical in masculine and neuter. The neuter, nominative, accusative, singular, and plural are identical. Just a couple of the noun rules or patterns that stand out and should grab us immediately. Look at some translation here. Autos means he, aute she, auta it, autu of him. So autes would be of her, autu of it in the neuter. Auto to him, aute to her, auto to it, and then him, her, it. In the plural, they, their, or of them, to them, and them would be across the paradigm, but we would just signify in English the they being either masculine, feminine, or neuter. But here you can see immediately that Greek has a different ending, and so it allows for a high degree of specificity. Because of the case endings, the stem is nuanced to a particular gender, masculine, feminine, or neuter. How do we parse these words? Case, number, gender, lexical form, inflected meaning. So autais, dative, feminine, plural, from autos, meaning to them. And what would the gender of them be? It'd have to be feminine. It would be a feminine understanding. Let's move on. Thinking about autos, and there are three basic uses of autos. The first is a personal pronoun. This is the most basic use. It's used to replace a personal noun or object. In that situation, the case of autos is determined by how the author wished to use it in the sentence. It can be a subject. Look at number 1. Autoi ton theon opsantai. They will see God. Autoi. How would you parse autoi? Yes, nominative, masculine, plural from autos, meaning they. Here's a subject. Nominative is always the subject. Or most often. There's nuances, but that's often the subject. As a direct object, autos, tate paralambane auton ha diabolos eistain hagion pollen. The devil took him, auton, to the holy city. Ha diabolos would be nominative, the devil. Paralambane, carried him, took him to the holy city. Him in the accusative here, masculine accusative. Possessive, kai kaleses ta anima autu Iesun. You shall call his name Jesus. Autu, possessive of anima. How would you parse autu? Would be genitive singular, and we would have to parse it as masculine or neuter because the form could be either way. In this particular instance, it would be masculine because his name, Jesus, is the him here. So we would know that it's masculine. But generally, parsing, if you had just the word autu, you'd want to include masculine and neuter. One thing we need to be aware of with the personal pronoun, the antecedent of autos determines the number and gender of autos in a sentence, whether autos is replacing a personal pronoun or object. Here's an example from Hebrews 1:5. Tinigar e pen pate ton angelon, huiasmu esu, ego semeran gigenikase. Kai pollen ego esamai auto es patera kai autos estai mo es huion. A couple of quotes from the Old Testament here that the author of Hebrews cites. For to which of the angels did he ever say, "You are my son," quoting from Psalm 2. Today I have become your father. Again, I will be his father, and he will be my son, quoting from 2 Samuel 7. But notice here, huios, son. I have an asterisk by the son in English and huios in Greek there. That's the antecedent of autos. And huios is masculine singular, so that's going to determine the case and it's masculine, but here the number singular and the gender masculine singular is going to determine the number and gender of autos and how it's used. Not necessarily the case though, because the case auto, what case is that? It's dative, and dative singular, I will be to him a father. And that's how autos is being used in the sense as a dative and indirect object. Huios is the antecedent, and the antecedent is determining the number and gender. The case, though, is determined by, again, the function in the sentence, how the author wants to use it. Notice in the second use of autos, kai autos estai moi eis huion. Here, the antecedent is still huios. So the number is singular, the gender is masculine, but here the case is nominative. I will be to him a son. It's a predicate nominative. Or he will be to me a son, rather. Excuse me. I was looking at something else there. He will be to me a son. He as a nominative. He is the subject of the sentence. I will be to him a father. He will be to me a son. So autos in both instances, when it becomes auto and autos, how it is used is determined how the author wants it to be used in terms of case, first dative and then nominative. But the antecedent, huios, is determining number and gender. I will be to him, eis patera, father. I will be his father, and he will be my son, kai autos estai mo eis huion. He will be, nominative here, son. Personal pronoun uses then: subject, direct object, possessive, and the antecedent of autos, in this case with Hebrews 1:5, huios, determines the number and gender. The actual case is determined by how it's being used in the sentence. Ego esomai auto, I will be to him, or I will be his father, and he will be a son to me. He will be my son. The second use, an adjectival intensive, and here the word self is used to communicate that idea. Autos may be used to intensify a noun it modifies, thus translated with a reflexive pronoun. As an adjective, autos agrees with the noun it modifies in case, number, and gender. Autos, Dawid apen en to pneumati to hagio, from Mark 12:36, David himself spoke in the Holy Spirit. Notice there, we could remove either one of those nouns. We could remove autos or Dawid, and the sentence would still make sense of the phrase. David spoke in the Holy Spirit, or autos. What does autos mean? He, third singular. He spoke in the Holy Spirit. But because they're together, David himself spoke in the Holy Spirit. Notice the second example. Autos de Jesus uk epistuin auton autois diaton auton genoskein pontus. John 2:24. This verse has a couple of instances. We can almost say three, in which there's this adjectival intensive idea. The first one especially, autos de Jesus, Jesus himself did not entrust himself, auton, to them because he knew all men. We could say he himself, in a sense, though it wouldn't be necessary. But it would be, especially with the first instance, Jesus himself, did not entrust himself to them. And finally there, James 2:7. Ugatoi blasphemusen ton kalon anima ta epiklethen ephumos. Do not they themselves blaspheme the good name by which you are called? Autoi here. They blaspheme, they themselves. The actual subject is embedded in the verb, and this is true, we'll see, in all verbs, beginning, we'll notice in chapter 15. In Greek, all verbs are inclusive of the subject, and this is the case here with blasphemusen, and autoi gives an intensive sense, they themselves. So if you see autos with a verb and it precedes the verb, it's often an intensive. The third use, identical, an identical adjective, and it includes, when translated, the word same. Maybe use an identical adjective meaning same. As an identical adjective, autos agrees with the noun it modifies in case, number, and gender. A couple of examples. Kai pollen apelthon pas exuta ton auton logon. And again, after going away, he prayed the same thing. Notice auton here. What word would it modify, do you think? What word do you see with the same case, number, and gender? Well, logon, right? Ton auton logon. And this is the beauty of the symmetry of Greek and agreement. Accusative, masculine, singular. Notice the second example. En aute techora pros eilthan tines pharisioi. In the same hour, some Pharisees came. In this phrase, aute modifies what word? Hora. Yes, you can see. What case are both aute and hora? Dative. What gender? Yes, feminine. And number? Singular. There's exact agreement here. So, personal pronouns, adjectival intensive, self or identical adjective, same. These are the uses of autos, and autos is one of the most frequently used words in the New Testament. So you'll get used to seeing it, and these patterns will come for you. Let's do some vocab. Didaskalos, my bridge is ditto. If I am wanting, as a teacher, I want people to copy what I'm saying. Ditto. Ditto, I got it. Ditto. Teacher, didaskalos. Didaskalou, second declension noun. Euthus, hear the word youth there, and youth want things done immediately. Euthus means immediately. Medes, medemia, meden, someone yelling, Mayday, Mayday. They may have no one to help them, nothing to help them. Medes, medemia, meden, no one, nothing. Continue to work on Greek. Watch this slideshow at least one other time this week. And again, 15 minutes to 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes to an hour in the evening, doing some vocab and some grammar review or translation in both sessions would be especially helpful. Even just a couple of minutes in each. But a couple of times a day, 5 days a week, and you will be successful in Greek. And you're going to need to continue to review as we have these next few chapters of this first section of nouns before we get to verbs. So continue to review morning and evening in Greek, and Lord bless you.